Hi, my name is Emily Roberson, and I'm the author of Lifestyles with Gods and Monsters, and I am here to talk about living a creative life. And I have been gone for a while, partially because my mom was helping me make the videos, my sweet mother, and because of COVID, she can't come over anymore, and so I've had to figure out how to work the camera and everything myself, which it turns out was a little more work than I thought. And then also because I was sort of struggling to figure out what to tell you guys about, partially because I have had a hard time creating with everything going on, and then partially because it's hard to figure out, what to say. But I've noticed watching creators that I love that a lot of them have just been moving forward and talking about the things that excite them and the things they want to talk about, and so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm back, hopefully back to posting once a week, and I'm going to be posting about elements of my creative journey and my creative life and things that I hope will help you in going forward on your creative life. Today, I'm going to address the question, what if I'm too scared to do the creative work that I want to do? And I think this is a really fair question for a lot of us. A lot of us find it really scary to put our work out there, and I am definitely still in this category. It took months for me to decide to even start this channel, maybe years. I think friends of mine would safely say I've been talking about this for years, because the idea of putting myself out there, even as a published author, was really terrifying. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about when you're too scared, and then really trying to follow your own intuition about whether you're legitimately scared or whether you're afraid of failure, which is very different from being afraid of something that you're genuinely frightened of. So to start with, I'm going to talk about the day that I figured out that I wasn't going to be a foreign correspondent. When I was a little girl, I really dreamed of being a writer and maybe a performer in some way. And I had several possible thoughts about that. I thought maybe I would be on Saturday Night Live, and I thought maybe I would be a novelist, which I've turned out to be. And one of the things that I thought I would love to be would be a foreign correspondent. I thought I would love to travel the world and meet people in different countries and report on their stories. And so I had that idea in the back of my mind. After I graduated from college, I was actually working at a newspaper. Not as a reporter yet. I was answering the telephone and putting up mail. But I kept thinking, this is my chance. I'm working in the news business. This is my chance to move forward and become this foreign correspondent that I've dreamed of. So here I was working at a newspaper, answering the telephone, and I was looking through all these ads for jobs. And I saw an ad for a job in Budapest, in Hungary. And it was an English language paper in Budapest, and people I knew who were reporters were like, you should apply for that, you should go for that. And I just was paralyzed. I did not apply for a job in Budapest. It seemed too far, it seemed too scary, it seemed too much. But I did apply for a job to be a newspaper reporter in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And that's what I did. I moved to Vicksburg. I didn't know anyone. It was, for me, really very terrifying, and it was also very exciting. And so I think as you're thinking about if things are too scary, if maybe the big jump to, traveling to Hungary when you've never been there seems too big, is there a smaller leap that might be a step on the way to that that's maybe not quite so scary? Because what I thought was, if I get done with the year in Vicksburg and I really like it, then I could move up to another paper and then maybe become a foreign correspondent that way. Because initially, the jump to foreign correspondent was so large because I didn't even understand the job of being a reporter. I'd never written a news story. And so taking the step of going to Vicksburg and becoming a newspaper reporter there felt like a step along the way. Which is really great that I did that, because when I was a newspaper reporter, I figured out pretty quickly that actually I like writing fiction better than writing nonfiction. The problem for me with fiction is when people tell you lies or make things up, you just have to report it. You can't say what you think they're really thinking. That's not really allowed. And with fiction, you can keep imagining what people were doing. And so once I'd been a newspaper reporter for a year, I knew pretty well that I didn't want to keep being a journalist. I wanted to write fiction. And so I'm really glad I learned that lesson, but it also sort of let me see what elements of the big scary thing were the most important to me. Because if I had realized through all that what I wanted to do was live abroad, there would have been other ways to do that. But what I really realized is what I wanted to do was be a writer. And so I just had to figure out how to do that. Here's another question for you to ask yourself when you're thinking about something really scary. Do you have your arms around what's really involved? Do you even know about it? Because one of the things that happened for me is all of the things that I dreamed of, whether it was making movies or writing books or doing anything, I didn't know anyone who did that. And so I had a lot of imagination about what those things would be like, and a lot of fears about what those things would be like, but very little real information. And because I am and was really terrified of rejection and failure and having people be like, that's a stupid idea, I really wasn't talking to people very much about things. So for example, when I was in college, I never really applied for any internships. I never talked to people who wrote fiction. I never talked to people who made movies, because I think a big part of me was then really afraid that someone would just say, oh, you're just a girl from Arkansas. What do you know? What do you have to say? And so I was reading a lot of books, but I was never actually moving to the next step of introducing myself to people, applying for jobs, and doing those things. And so I think one of the things to ask yourself, and I definitely did this as I moved forward into writing books, was instead of just thinking it's that big, bad, scary thing that I don't even know anything about, I started going to conferences and meeting people and talking to agents and talking to editors and talking to other writers and naming myself as an aspiring writer, sort of putting myself in that position, which let me gather a whole lot of information, which was super helpful moving forward because I at least had an idea about what it would be like and a better sense about what was rational to be afraid of and what I was just kind of scared of for not a very good reason. Last part is sometimes our terror is completely rational, but we have to do it anyway. Writing a book meant that people were gonna write 1-star reviews on it on the internet. It's just true. Making these videos means that, I mean, number one, maybe nobody sees them. And number two, maybe somebody sees them and says, I didn't really like that, or they 1-star, or they down thumb it, or they say I look funny, or all of those things. Like, those fears are rational. It's the internet. Like, all those things could happen. And so the next question you ask yourself is this really what I just feel like I need to be doing? I dream of doing the thing I'm really called to do. And if it is, then just keep doing it, even though, you know, you have to make the video. And the other thing is, the biggest one for me is that scary thing, that scary feeling, it doesn't go away, or at least it hasn't for me so far. And I figure if it hasn't gone away by now, it's probably not gonna go away. Like, it just keeps coming back in different ways. It's like the Hydra, you know, I just have to keep fighting it. It sneaks up on me. And once I get past one thing, it comes up in another way. And so the things that scare us, they're just gonna continue to scare us. And so I'm just trying to be really, really patient with the part of me that's scared, and just kind of move forward in ways that feel okay. I mean, we're walking a tightrope here, and, you know, just keep moving forward, because the thing about it is that no one can make your art for you. Like, no one can put it out there for you. And I, for one, would really love to see what you make. And I think when all of us who are scared cede the ground to the people who aren't scared, that really limits what stories are told. Because I'll tell you who's not scared: horrible people. They're not scared. They just keep putting their stuff out there, and then they're mean. And so I think for me, you can tell me in the comments if I'm right or wrong, I love the feeling of telling you that I find this scary. I found writing a book scary. I find writing another book scary. I find making these videos scary. but I'm doing it anyway. And so hopefully, you know, singing your song and putting it up on the internet, because oh my gosh, we need so much music now. Please, please sing your song, put it out there, make a video, put it out there, because it's really gonna mean something to someone. And the fact that you're afraid means that you're alive. It's just part of being human to be afraid of what other people will think of our work, or to be afraid of what might happen if we do something. But we're people, like, this is what we do. We make things. This is our story. This is what we do. So please, please, please keep moving forward, but listen to yourself, because sometimes you get to the end of the diving board and it really is too tall. You can back up and go back down and go on a lower diving board. Like, this is art. This should not be throwing yourself into the deep end when you don't know how to swim yet. So that's my biggest advice, is break it into smaller pieces and see, you know, maybe, you know, submitting your short story to a big contest or trying out for a singing contest is too big right now. But could you do something in a smaller way, and then you'll get the stamina to move on to the next thing. So that's it for now, and hopefully I'll have one up next week if I can get myself together. Okay, bye.